Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Fireside Chat, TDCX Talks Gaming Edition. I'm your host, Lucas, and the topic of our discussion today is Level Up, navigating trust, wellness, and engagement in gaming communities. I'm joined by Rob Van Herpen, Vice President of Client Solutions for TDCX. Rob, thank you so much for coming and for your time, and welcome to our Fireside Chat.
Thank you, Lucas. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. Give us a quick background for yourself, Rob.
Okay, so I've been in the BPO industry for the past 18 years, predominantly focusing on working with gaming and tech companies. I've focused mostly on, let's say, player support and trust and safety, which I would call my areas of expertise. And I've spent time at different BPOs doing so, both smaller BPOs and larger BPOs. And I joined TDCX about 3 months ago. Happy to be part of the team.
Thanks for that. And you were recently at the GDC, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. A lot of buzz, a lot of excitement. Tell us more about the event.
Yeah, indeed. I was there the week before last week, and it was great being there. I've been going to the event for the past decade or so. It's one of the largest game events, game trade shows, let's say, out there. Around 30,000 people visiting the event, both at the event but also around. It's typically that a lot of people meet up as well around the event in cafes and in hotel lobbies, etc. It's basically developers and publishers looking to meet with each other, meet with service providers, meeting up with old friends that go back a long time. So it's always great being there. The buzz generally at the event was generally positive. The game industry had a bit of a rough year last year because there were a lot of layoffs in the industry, and that's continuing into, let's say, into 2024. But generally speaking, people were moderately positive about the growth of the industry and the fact that the layoffs might slow down throughout this year, as the outlook for the industry in terms of revenue is generally positive. But it's not a bad thing necessarily that the industry, after the fast growth in the pandemic, um, took let's say slowed down a little bit. But of course, it's never nice to be part of layoffs. So a lot of people were talking about it at the event. Other than that, the event was well visited. There was a lot of buzz around user-generated content, which was a popular topic, especially looking at games like Fortnite, Roblox. It's interesting to see how other games are going to pick up this piece. AI, of course, very much present, topic of discussion, which is also something that we'll discuss in more detail during today's conversation. One of the other things that stood out to me, which is the main topic of today's conversation, is the general interest in trust and safety and community moderation engagement. It's becoming increasingly important for gaming companies, in some cases even more important than the game itself. And all the sessions that I attended were very well visited, and it came up in practically every conversation I had during the show. So that's definitely a very much rising topic in the gaming industry right now.
Let's talk about that. It's a very critical aspect that most consumers don't know about. And trust and safety from the support side, it can make or break a game or a community. So let's talk about some of the effective strategies that gaming brands can really implement to manage hate, bullying, toxicity, while at the same time fostering a positive community environment.
Yep. So there are basically three main important components from our perspective. So it starts with clear community guidelines. The second thing is be very active or proactive when it comes to community moderation. And thirdly, make sure that you promote positive engagement in your community. So I'll go back to the first topic, clear communication guidelines. It sounds like a no-brainer, but actually it takes a lot of work and effort to make sure that your game has clear community guidelines and that they're being communicated properly. So gaming companies should invest in this and make sure that that's in place, right? That's the foundation that you need in order to have a safe and thriving community. The second thing is be very proactive when it comes to community moderation. Make sure you have a dedicated team for this. It's not something that you can do on the side or 100% rely on volunteers. Using volunteers to help out, keeping your community safe is a perfectly normal thing to do, but make sure that you have a professional team that takes care of moderation in order to make sure that things stay healthy and safe. Thirdly, promote positive engagement. Really important, of course, that if you see people doing positive things in your community, encourage that behavior, right? Make sure that people get rewarded if they do positive things for your community. It's sort of a rolling snowball effect, right? So once people see that positive behavior actually is rewarded and has a very positive effect on the community, it will only become better. While the other way around, if negative behavior isn't well tackled, then people will continue doing so or even spike it up, right? So I think from the trust and safety perspective, those three components are extremely important.
So basically, have rules, enforce them, and then try to promote as much positive content as you can to create an environment where people feel safe and they can share and they can essentially emulate what they're seeing around them.
Absolutely, Lucas.
And there's also a very tough uh, aspect here for companies, and it goes back to like freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So on one hand, you need to protect communities. You need to make sure that there's nothing illegal, there's nothing offensive, there's nothing that promotes hate speech, bullying, harassment, all that stuff. At the same time, you also have a fine balance of allowing freedom of expression on those platforms. This goes beyond just gaming communities, but gaming communities is one way that this issue comes out. Um, what's the and one of the things I used to say was, if a company does their job right in terms of enacting that balance, everyone will complain that you're either not doing enough or you're doing too much. What's your take on this when it comes to balancing this?
Yeah, it's an interesting and also sensitive topic, right? Because you can never create a community that works for everybody. Gamers in general, especially when it comes to, let's say, more competitive games, tend to be very passionate about what they do and also use certain language when they talk about those
Yeah.
games. However, certain language, those type of, let's say, that type of behavior or certain words that are being used are not let's say acceptable to everyone. Yeah, and that's where I want to get back to the clear community guidelines. I think that's where it all starts with. And the game company has the responsibility to set the tone, what they allow and what they don't allow in their community. So people know that once the communication around this is clear, you'll have less discussion around the topic, right? Because if you enforce those guidelines, then you can refer back to the communication that you gave your players, how to act in the community. Um, there will always be, let's say, foul play or people trying to circumvent the rules. I think that's a reality of life and not necessarily part of, let's say, the gaming community or whatsoever. Um, but of course, as I said, the game company has the responsibility to make sure that it's a safe environment for everybody. You do that by setting clear guidelines, and then people should buy those guidelines. If there are still people that don't respect those rules, that's where the moderation comes in, and you should be removing those people from your community if ever after a warning they still don't comply with those rules.